Eddie and Gwen have created numerous classic on-screen couple images, and in reality, they are also a married couple, referred to by the public as America's sweethearts. However, all of this is just false commercial marketing. In fact, their marriage has long been on the brink of collapse, merely a facade. Despite this, they still have a new movie waiting to be released. Gwen has had 2 films perform poorly at the box office, and Eddie has faded from the public eye for quite some time. This film represents an important opportunity for both of them to revive their careers. Unexpectedly, the new film's director Hal has a strange working style, keeping the film's content a secret, and has not released any promotional trailers, only stating that all content will be revealed on the day of the film's press conference. This has caused great concern for the film's investor Davis. If they cannot showcase exciting clips through a trailer to boost box office sales, they can only rely on Eddie and Gwen's public image for promotion. But their relationship has become extremely strained, making this goal difficult to achieve. Davis rehired Lee, an employee who had previously been fired. Lee is the agent who knows this couple best, and only he can facilitate their collaboration. The new employee, Danny, does not possess such capabilities. In fact, this task is quite challenging for Lee as well. The relationship between this on-screen couple is very poor. After Gwen noticed the cracks in their relationship, she quickly started dating a Spanish man and brought her lover to the restaurant they often frequented. This scene made Eddie extremely angry. He lost his mind and drove his motorcycle towards Gwen, nearly causing her death. After the court issued a restraining order against Eddie, Gwen was finally able to live a peaceful life with her new boyfriend. However, Eddie did not care about the restraining order. He only hoped to reconcile with his wife and became overly anxious, going to a rehabilitation center for psychological treatment. Lee believes that if he were in Gwen's position, he would definitely not want to see Eddie again. Therefore, to complete the task, he can only start with Eddie, who still holds hope. Lee informed Eddie that Gwen was criticized on a certain show for breaking up with him. Eddie immediately began to fantasize, imagining Gwen suffering from the criticism. This imagination secretly pleased Eddie. Lee took the opportunity to persuade Eddie to attend a party, as he had already noticed Eddie's lingering feelings for Gwen. With a little guidance, Eddie would follow the arrangements. As for the therapist's prohibition on patients going out, it could be resolved simply by gifting a new car. In contrast, persuading Gwen is proving to be difficult. Gwen is adamant, stating that as long as Eddie is present, she will not attend the party. At this moment, Gwen's sister Kiki stepped in to defend Eddie, claiming that Eddie did not mean to act that way. This made Gwen even more dissatisfied. She could not understand why everyone was pleading for Eddie. Lee was very surprised when he saw Kiki. The last time he saw her, Kiki was slightly plump, but now she had become slim and beautiful. Gwen became even more irritated when she noticed Lee's attention shifting. When Lee tried to persuade Gwen to forgive Eddie again, Gwen exploded with emotion and sternly warned Lee that she would never accept someone who tried to hurt her. Kiki thought her sister was overreacting, as Eddie had just lost control of his emotions due to his deep love for Gwen. Lee was unwilling to intervene in the sisters' dispute and turned to look out the window. The appearance of Gwen's boyfriend Hector made Lee's headache worse. Hector was not well known and had a habit of talking to himself. In Lee's view, his only advantage was his youth. Lee couldn't understand why Gwen would choose such a person and give up on Eddie, who was a much better match for her. Lee initially thought Hector would be an obstacle, but unexpectedly, he supported Gwen in attending the party. This delighted Lee, but made Gwen feel angry and humiliated. Gwen was very sad. She faced criticism from industry insiders and slander from fans for breaking up with Eddie, simply because they had once been seen as the perfect couple in the public eye. Now, even her boyfriend Hector didn't understand her, which was unbearable for Gwen. Gwen left the crowd alone, hoping to be by herself. However, Hector thought Gwen was unreasonable. He believed that being alone wouldn't solve the problem, and that it would be better to let Eddie witness his close relationship with Gwen. In the end, it was still Kiki who stepped in to handle the follow-up matters. Kiki persuaded her sad sister to attend the party, pointing out to Gwen that her unwillingness to see Eddie was actually due to her fear that Eddie would appear pitiful, thus evoking public sympathy and turning public opinion against her. At the same time, attending the party could also promote the new movie and maintain a facade of harmony with Eddie to win back fans. Gwen was persuaded by her sister. Perhaps she could use this opportunity to sign the divorce agreement with Eddie. Kiki expressed her doubts and asked Gwen if she was sure about divorcing Eddie. In Kiki's mind, Eddie was an excellent person. He had made many efforts to please Gwen and was very attentive to her preferences. Kiki believed that Gwen would find it hard to meet someone like him again. But Gwen had no attachment to the marriage. Her life after marriage felt suffocating. Eddie only cared about the image he had created for himself, which Gwen could not tolerate. Upon learning this, Kiki felt downcast, realizing clearly that Eddie belonged to Gwen. Gwen did not notice her sister's emotions and still requested Kiki to accompany her to the party. Lee was very satisfied with this outcome, believing that Kiki had been a great help. The party was held as scheduled, and the two artists arrived at the venue, with the atmosphere feeling like a battlefield. Arranged by Lee, Gwen entered first, followed closely by Eddie. Eddie looked at Gwen's smile, feeling a pang of sadness inside. He thought Gwen was completely indifferent to the breakup. His competitive spirit drove him not to show any disappointment in front of the media. Kiki, standing at the back of the crowd, looked at Eddie with affection. After a long time apart, Eddie was still charming, yet no one noticed this hidden emotion. After returning to his room, Eddie was emotionally stirred, secretly hoping to reconcile with Gwen. However, Lee informed him that Gwen lived in a villa far away, clearly different from his own place. Eddie felt confused about this, but he only cared about Gwen's address. That night, Eddie pretended to take a walk and climbed over the villa's wall. He saw a woman in white by the pool through a hole in the wall, captivated by her, but accidentally fell onto a cactus, getting covered in thorns. Eddie endured the pain of pulling out the thorns, and this scene was misunderstood by the security guard as strange behavior, prompting the guard to question Eddie. Lee, upon learning this, worried about the impact on his career. According to local laws, inappropriate behavior in public places is illegal. Fortunately, this matter could be properly resolved through Lee's hints and monetary gifts. The security guard also understood Lee's intentions. However, that night, all of Eddie's surveillance footage was exposed. The content of the video shocked the public, but only Kiki was secretly pleased, as the woman in white in the video was Kiki herself. Gwen and Eddie were troubled by this. Fans heatedly discussed the possibility of the two reconciling, and the media seized the opportunity to hype it up. The two artists sought out Lee, hoping he would resolve the crisis. Unbeknownst to them, Lee was the one who leaked the video. Turning negative news into promotional hype is a common public relations tactic, and Lee planned to use this to promote the film and fulfill his work obligations. Gwen was completely unaware of this. She thought the situation that night was terrible. She felt so sad herself that Eddie must be even more hurt. Thus, Gwen asked her sister Kiki to communicate with Eddie. Kiki couldn't understand why her sister needed her as a middleman for communication between the couple. She felt like a ridiculous intermediary. Gwen didn't understand her sister's thoughts, used to having Kiki handle all her problems, never solving troubles herself. Kiki reluctantly agreed to once again handle the issue for Gwen. Kiki arrived near Eddie's room, recalling previous events. At that time, Eddie and Gwen's marriage was in crisis, and Kiki had been entrusted by Gwen to communicate with Eddie. Eddie was very haggard due to emotional issues, yet still unwilling to leave Gwen. He didn't understand why Gwen wanted to leave him. Kiki thought Eddie was great, but Gwen turned a blind eye, determined to leave. Eddie didn't know Kiki's true thoughts, thinking it was just comforting words. Under the influence of alcohol, Eddie kissed Kiki. This kiss left a deep impression on Kiki and became the reason for Kiki to defend and approach Eddie. Eddie was very surprised to see the changed Kiki. He recognized Kiki and praised her as he did before. Kiki felt happy, but Eddie's subsequent apology made her smile disappear. Eddie remembered the kiss, but stated that it was merely his revenge against Gwen. At that time, he discovered Gwen's relationship with Hector and, feeling dissatisfied, vented his emotions using Kiki. The truth made Kiki very sad. She thought it was a beautiful accident, but it was actually just an act of revenge. Kiki hid her feelings and falsely claimed to not remember the incident. Eddie felt relieved and shared with Kiki his experience of seeing a woman in white outside the villa, believing that she was the one he wanted to spend his life with, thinking only he deserved Gwen. Kiki mistakenly thought Eddie was talking about her, feeling very joyful, and told Eddie that this was the reason for her appearance. Eddie did not understand the reason and was pulled by Kiki to meet Gwen. Eddie thought Kiki's intention was to have him meet Gwen, even fantasizing about Gwen apologizing to him while he remained indifferent. But reality was not like that. Gwen was just there to discuss the next day's press conference. This movie was very important to Gwen, and there could be no mistakes. After learning this, Eddie felt disheartened, watching Gwen leave and feeling very angry. Yet he couldn't bear to hurt Gwen, and could only return to his room alone. At this moment, Kiki was alone, thinking of the harmonious scenes between Gwen and Eddie, which she had facilitated, and felt a twinge of sadness. Recently, news of their late-night meetings became a hot topic. Gwen had long anticipated this situation. She knew it was a good opportunity to promote the movie, which is why she met with Eddie. The experienced Lee would not miss this opportunity and had already arranged for reporters to wait on site. Gwen was well prepared for this. After meeting with Eddie, she put on a standard smile in front of the media. Many media outlets conducted interviews, with questions revolving around whether the two were getting back together, the reasons for their breakup, and future plans. Gwen and Eddie were very annoyed, but could only respond reluctantly, fabricating various reasons, stating that both were very hurt during the breakup and that they remained friends afterward. The boring interview made Kiki start knitting, and Eddie gradually became numb. Eddie did not understand how Gwen could lie so easily, as they had been very flustered at the beginning of the interview. The lies made him feel that Gwen was even more unfamiliar. In the end, Eddie could not bear the false interview any longer and publicly stated that his marriage with Gwen was not happy and that their private life was very chaotic. This statement shocked everyone and made Lee very nervous. To prevent Eddie from causing more trouble, Lee confessed his plan. The investors could not obtain the original footage of Hal's film and could only rely on the rumors between Eddie and Gwen for promotion. The issues raised by the two during the interview needed to be resolved at the dinner that night. They had to attend no matter what. Gwen was very troubled by this. She knew that if she softened her attitude towards Eddie, he would think there was a possibility of reconciliation. But she did not want to reconcile and could only deliberately act indifferent. Kiki was angry to hear Gwen's complaints because it was always Kiki who played the bad guy, delivering the breakup news, just as she had done with Gwen's previous boyfriends. But this time, Kiki did not want to do that anymore. Eddie was someone Kiki liked, and she did not want to see him sad. Gwen, however, casually stated that Kiki could refuse, but Eddie would wait alone for a night, which was not an unacceptable outcome. This statement touched Kiki, and she compromised again, agreeing to meet Eddie in Gwen's place. Kiki was worried that Eddie would be angry and leave upon seeing someone who was not Gwen, but Eddie was very enthusiastic and hoped Kiki would stay to keep him company. The two had a very pleasant conversation, and Kiki discovered that they had the same taste in movies, as if they were a perfect match. Lee, who was lurking nearby, saw this scene and believed he had found a new direction for promotion. Eddie did not know that his actions were being recorded and reported to Gwen. He was feeling down. Although he enjoyed chatting with Kiki, she was not the person he had hoped for, and he still felt disappointed. Moreover, the necklace he had given to Gwen was now being worn by Kiki, shining brightly at that moment. The beautiful scene, however, hurt Eddie's heart. Kiki noticed that Eddie was distracted and helplessly expressed that she was thinking about impossible things. Just like the bread on the table could only be bread and could not be changed. Just like Kiki's feelings for Eddie, which could not be reciprocated. Kiki asked Eddie in return, and the answer was Gwen. Then, Eddie looked towards the door and informed Kiki that Gwen had arrived. The elegantly dressed Gwen then appeared, which meant Kiki needed to leave. Although Eddie tried to keep her, Kiki still left. The meeting between Gwen and Eddie did not go smoothly. Hector suddenly appeared at the dinner, constantly provoking Eddie, believing that Eddie wanted to steal Gwen away. Eddie did not want to cause trouble for the sake of the film promotion, but Hector's actions were excessive, splashing wine on Eddie. Eddie could not tolerate it and got into a physical altercation with Hector, causing chaos in the restaurant. After Eddie subdued Hector, he realized he was in a public place and tried to explain to everyone. But Hector picked up an iron tray and knocked Eddie out. This conflict ended with Eddie getting injured, while Kiki took care of him with great care. Eddie looked at the worried Kiki. Warm feelings arose in his heart, and he kissed Kiki. The next day, the two woke up. feeling as if last night was a dream, filled with happiness. They greeted each other like ordinary couples and had breakfast together. The scene was very harmonious, as if they had been together for a long time. But Gwen's phone call broke this tranquility. After receiving the call, Eddie immediately decided to go to Gwen, leaving Kiki to wait in the room. Kiki then understood that she had not truly been recognized by Eddie, and everything from last night might have just been an accident. Kiki returned to Gwen's villa first and changed her clothes. Upon seeing Kiki, Gwen immediately asked her to make scrambled eggs. Gwen and Eddie chatted in the living room while Kiki busied herself in the kitchen. The scene seemed harmonious, just like before. The only difference was that Kiki had intimate contact with the person she liked, but that didn't matter, because Eddie in the living room was still hiding his relationship with Kiki from Gwen. Anger filled Kiki's heart. She walked into the living room with a frying pan and poured the scrambled eggs over the two of them. Kiki could no longer endure it. She accused the couple of being selfish, one always pleasing the other while hurting others, and the other wanting a divorce yet giving false hope. This farce should end. Angry, Kiki left, unwilling to face the two anymore. After learning about the divorce, Eddie finally saw through Gwen's hypocrisy. He immediately chased after her, hoping to win back Kiki, who had treated him sincerely. Kiki didn't want to pay attention to Eddie. She didn't care about the movie promotion and just wanted to tell Eddie the truth. They were the ones suited for each other. Their past interactions were beautiful, and the woman in white that Eddie saw that night was Kiki. After saying this, Kiki left, leaving Eddie to think alone. Kiki began to binge eat. She had once worked hard to lose weight and become beautiful for Eddie, but without true love, maintaining her beauty lost its meaning. Lee noticed Kiki's sadness at a glance, realizing that the ones making her sad were the selfish Gwen and the indecisive Eddie. Under Lee's inquiry, Kiki poured out her feelings, expressing her hatred for Gwen's constant domineering behavior, making her give unconditionally, while her sister never considered her feelings. Although Kiki loved Gwen, she could not continue to endure Gwen's temper. After listening, Lee understood that it was Eddie who had hurt Kiki, and he didn't want this destined pair to be separated due to misunderstandings. Lee had witnessed their experiences and had never seen Eddie treat anyone else with the same care as he did Kiki. Kiki didn't believe Lee's words, but they left her feeling unsettled, and she hurriedly left. At this moment, Eddie was drowning his sorrows in alcohol, contemplating how to win Kiki back, but feeling lost, he went to the rooftop to relax, hoping to clear his mind. However, everyone mistakenly thought Eddie wanted to end his life due to relationship issues, and Lee hurried to the rooftop. Unexpectedly, Lee's action of opening the door nearly caused Eddie to fall off the building, but fortunately, Lee saved Eddie in time with firefighting equipment. Just as the rooftop situation was resolved, director Hal's helicopter flew by, bringing news of a new movie. Hal's appearance and the film itself were shocking. This so-called reality movie was actually filmed using hidden cameras, capturing snippets of real life. The footage recorded everyone's hypocrisy, Investor Davis's disdain for the director, Gwen's true words and actions in private, and the false marriage and feelings of this on-screen couple. Long before the film was shot, Gwen had already fallen for someone else. Hector's appearance also made his relationship with Gwen public. Gwen was furious, ordering Lee to stop the film screening and stating she would sue Hal through legal means. But this could not stop the situation from developing. Gwen could only take the last resort, publicly announcing her reconciliation with Eddie. But this time, Eddie no longer cooperated with Gwen. He had chosen Kiki. Eddie once thought Gwen was gentle and kind, but now he realized she was very selfish, and Kiki was the one suitable for him. Kiki got the love she wanted, but knew that things were not over yet. Kiki told Gwen that she was tired of always giving without receiving. Although she loved Gwen, she also had the right to pursue her own happiness. Kiki pointed out clearly that Gwen had always only considered herself, and the two parted ways from then on. This twist surprised everyone present. Seeing this, Gwen immediately put on a show of deep, sisterly affection, pretending to be hurt and sad. This was exactly the kind of storyline the media loved, lovers finally coming together while others left in the shadows. The film release event was a huge success. Eddie and Kiki got together, Gwen regained fan support with her tragic persona, and her career rebounded. Lee also became a successful figure in the public relations field once again. Everyone got the results they wanted.